I was not there when the sky split open with emerald wings. Arsil and I were elsewhere in the forest, following signs of old magic, but the tale reached me later, told in breathless fragments, smoke-scented cloaks, and bruises that spoke louder than words. I have walked battlefields enough to know when a story carries truth in its bones. They said the dragon was not like others. When Firwin lifted them from the forest floor, they did not feel the terror one expects when riding a creature that could swallow a horse whole. They felt safe. Oak swore the air itself grew warmer near her scales. Freya said it was like being wrapped in a song too old to remember, but too beautiful to forget. Even Brutax, who trusts little that does not bleed, felt the tension leave his shoulders as they rose above the snow-laden pines. Below them, Evergreen Forest stretched endless and silver, moonlight washing the treetops into a sea of frost-tipped waves. They glided, not rushed, not hunted, carried. Firwin's wings beat with a rhythm older than war. No wind bit their faces, no fear gnawed their bellies. She was goodness made flesh, and on her back they felt as though nothing in the world could truly harm them, until it could. Oak saw it first. He always does. Years of battle have carved instincts into him like runes into stone. A flicker of movement in the trees. Too straight, too ordered, too still. A camp. But as Firwin angled toward it, her wings faltered. The warmth dimmed. Something unseen clutched at her. Not ropes, not chains, but a pressure, a weight in the air itself. She slowed. Her breath grew shallow. She tried to summon the emerald fire that had once melted winter itself, but nothing came. Evil. Binding. Ritual. They did not hesitate. They leapt. Snow burst beneath their boots as they landed among the enemy. Snow goblins, pale and vicious, their bows already rising. A direwolf prowled beside them, breath steaming like a furnace of hunger. Behind the line stood one of their kind robed in frost runes, magic pooling at its fingertips. Minerva moved first, as she always does when shadows favor her. Steel flashed. Little Mister bounded beside her, antlers lowered. Goblin blood painted the snow before the rest had drawn breath. Ian hurled javelins toward the archers above. The weapons vanished into the night air, missing their mark. Arrows hissed back. They struck nothing on Firwin, glancing from her scales as though winter itself refused to wound her. But Brutax took one, then another. He grunted, more annoyed than hurt. Then Firwin fell like judgment. She crashed into their ranks, wings sweeping wide, claws tearing through shields and bodies alike. Goblins scattered like dry leaves in a storm. Where she struck, nothing remained but red streaks in white snow. Freya's voice rose, not in song, but in fury. A bead of fire left her hand and bloomed into an inferno among the warriors. 4 were gone before they could scream. The rest staggered from the flames, smoking, broken. And still the ritual pulled at Firwin. The fight should have broken there. It did not. One goblin slipped through the chaos, blade flashing. Ian took the strike along his arm, blood darkening the snow. Before he could recover, a direwolf burst from the trees, jaws closing around his leg with a crunch that echoed across the clearing. Firwin answered. She dropped from above like the wrath of the forest itself. Her tail swept the battlefield in a single, terrible arc. Goblins shattered like brittle branches. The direwolf disappeared beneath the strike, bones snapping like frozen twigs. Then the air turned to ice. The goblin mage raised its arms, tracing a cruel circle in the air. Frost bloomed outward in a howling cone. The world went white. Oak took the storm head on. When the wind cleared, he was still standing, barely, frost clinging to his beard, his breath ragged. Minerva stepped forward, eyes narrowed. A spray of virulent mist left her lips. Archers fell, clutching at their throats, collapsing silently into the snow. Then the horn sounded, deep, commanding, not goblin. From the trees strode an orc commander atop a snarling warg, barking orders as fresh ranks of snow goblins poured from the woods. On the far flank, a pale hobgoblin warlord emerged, voice rising in a harsh battle cry as yet another wave advanced. And another mage joined the field. I know the look of a battlefield turning. It is a feeling, not a sight, a pressure behind the ribs. Firwin felt it too. "Stop the enchanters!" she called, her voice strained, wings faltering under unseen bindings. Brutax roared and leapt from her back, javelins flying. 2 archers dropped where they stood, lifeless before they hit the ground. Oak shook frost from his shoulders like a soldier shrugging off memory. He moved, not wildly, not desperately, but with the clean efficiency of a veteran. He cut through the line, placed himself between Minerva and the mage, and struck with a precision born of wars long past. The enchanter staggered, nearly slain. Then Oak turned toward the orc. Steel rang. The orc laughed, deep, cruel, dismissive. Oak did not. He struck again, and again. His blade moved with the inevitability of winter itself. The orc's laughter died as he and his warg crashed to the snow, both thrown flat by the force of the old knight's fury. Freya ran to him before he could fall. Her hand found his shoulder, magic flowing into him like warmth returning to frozen limbs. She would not let him die in that field. We heard the battle before we saw it. The clash of steel carries differently through winter air, sharper, like glass breaking in the distance. Arcel and I had just left Oakheart behind us, Papa Noel's words still warm in our ears, when the forest ahead flashed with unnatural light. I followed the signs the way I always have. Broken snow crust, disturbed frost, the scent of fire and fear. We crested a ridge. Below us, the war had already begun. Firwin's emerald wings struggled against something unseen, magic dragging at her like chains of ice. Goblins swarmed the field, arrows darkened the sky. My friends fought in a storm of steel and frost. I did not think. I drew. 2 arrows flew before my boots found their footing. One struck the orc commander in the chest, the other buried itself in his arm. His roar of pain carried over the din. Arcel did not wait. He leapt from the ridge and plunged toward the melee, holy symbol raised. Magic gathered at his fingertips, but winter swallowed it, the spell dissolving into the cold. I have seen men break in battle. I have seen lines falter. I have seen cavalry charges and dragons descend from storm clouds. But I have never seen terror spread like it did in that moment. 2 snow goblins rushed him together, blades raised, shrieking their thin winter cries. Brutax did not slow. He did not dodge. He simply met them. His fists came down like falling stones. One skull burst with a wet crack. The second followed a heartbeat later, both creatures dropping before their blades touched him. Then he bent down, not to check for life, not to finish them, to eat. He tore into the fallen goblin with the calm focus of a hunter who has earned his meal. Steam rose from blood-meeting cold air. The battlefield paused, not from silence, but from disbelief. Brutax finished chewing, wiped his mouth with the back of his forearm, and looked around as if mildly inconvenienced. "Snow goblins are a bit cold," he growled. "Needs hot sauce." 4 goblins watching were so struck with fear as to what they had just witnessed that they dropped their weapons and fled towards the tree line. For the first time since we arrived, the snow goblins began to falter, the field below turning in our favour. Little Mister, small, silent, relentless, darted through the fray. He leapt for the enchanter's throat. Antlers and teeth tore through flesh. The mage fell, magic snapping like a severed cord. Oak charged the white hobgoblin commander. "This is your last battle," he told the brute. "My whole life led me here, to be the end of yours." Oak said with a confidence tone. His blade struck deep into the commander's side. I swiftly ran up to assist Oak. My legs felt very light on the hard-packed snow. Verindle felt light in my hands, both blades, crescent and thorn. I stepped from the air itself, closing the distance to the hobgoblin warlord in a blur of steel. 3 cuts, clean, measured, beautiful. He screamed, caught off guard by speed he could not match. He fell to the ground, grasping for breath the way a dying creature only can in their final moments. The rest of the goblin horde panicked at their fallen commander. They all dropped their weapons and fled toward the safety of the tree line, running to their holes deep in the spine of the world mountains. Firwin rose higher, wings no longer heavy. Her breath gathered. "You freed me!" she cried, voice like spring thunder. Suddenly, the moon slowly vanished as if it were a lunar eclipse, but it was no such thing. A shadow passed over us so vast the world seemed to dim. I knew before I looked. Something descended through the storm clouds, wings wide as frozen sails, scales pale and scarred like glacier ice. Each beat of those wings carried the weight of old winters, of hunger without mercy. Frost, the ancient white dragon. He circled once, high above us, eyes burning with ancient hatred. They locked first on Firwin. Then his gaze fell upon us, assessing the situation like a seasoned battle master. His voice rolled across the battlefield like glaciers splitting stone. He laughed. "You freed my prisoner, then bring her back to me." And just like that, we were no longer fighting an army. We were fighting the mighty white dragon who wanted to rain evil upon the Evergreen Forest. Firwin struck first. Her emerald breath washed over Frost like dawn over a glacier. Barely felt. Ice steamed from his scales, but the great white dragon only lifted his head in mild irritation. Then he sucked in air. I have hunted in blizzards. I have slept beneath falling snow. I have known cold. This was not that. Frost inhaled, and as he did, the snow lifted from branches, from ground, from air itself, spiraling toward his jaws. Then he exhaled winter's bitter bite, a cone of freezing cold air and ice shards. Firwin vanished inside the storm of ice and screaming wind. When it cleared, Frost clung to her wings, her scales rimed in white. The battle had changed once again. We all felt it. That quiet moment when prey realizes the hunter is too large, too old, too inevitable. It took all of my keen senses to keep my courage as fear of the mighty dragon began to creep into my mind. Firwin had fallen to him once before. Was this how it ended again? But she did not fall. She climbed. With a cry that carried the memory of spring itself, she dove through the air, ramming into his side, her claws blazing with blinding light. Frost recoiled, momentarily dazed and surprised by the bold move. He reacted with a swipe of his massive tail, flinging Firwin towards the ground. Ian answered with faith. His javelin flew true, piercing between scales, divine light flaring where it struck. Oak fired his crossbow from below, brave, steady, his bolts glancing from the beast's hide like pebbles off stone. Frost looked down and surveyed all of us with a piercing stare striking fear in all of our hearts. He dove, and with it came his mighty cold breath. The blast that followed ripped cold right to my bones. Ice shards hit me like knives. I could not feel my face, my hands, my feet. I thought, is this how my life ends? As Frost climbed, I saw Freya. She stood shaking, lips moving through a spell she barely dared trust. I had seen her use it once, against another dragon. She finished the words. Nothing happened. Frost rose, preparing for another dive. Then he grinned, then laughed. A deep, horrible, helpless laugh tore from his throat. Wings faltered, The mighty dragon folded in on himself, clutching his belly as laughter racked him. He fell from the sky like a felled mountain, crashing into the snow in a plume of white. We all cheered with jubilation in unison as the mighty dragon came crashing down. Hope returned like fire to frozen limbs. I drew my bow and fired, my arrow struck, then the arrows exploded into tiny thorned projectiles biting deep into its flesh. It was magic taught to me by my old druid friend, Keltak. Arsel's sacred flames burned against the dragon's hide. Minerva's magic missiles slammed into him in bright streaks of force. Little Mister charged, tiny against such a beast, and drove his antlers into Frost's belly. The dragon shook off Tasha's hideous laughter. He struggled to rise, cursing Firwin, cursing us, cursing the snow goblins, cursing the day he came to the Evergreen Forest. Ian did not wait. He ran, the dragon-slayer blade in both of his hands. He drove it forward with every ounce of strength and faith he carried. The sword punched through Frost's neck. He had done it. We had done it. We had slain Frost, the mighty white dragon. Firwin dove towards us, gently landing at the scene. She walked towards us, not in fury, not in dominance, in grace. Her emerald scales caught the returning moonlight, and she spread her wings slowly, as though careful not to disturb something sacred. "The wound on Evergreen Forest is now closed," she said. She bent her great head toward the fallen dragon and the scattered dead. From her mouth came a gentle, radiant breath, not fire, not frost. Light flowed over the corpses, and I saw it. Faint forms lifting from broken bodies, drifting skyward like motes of dawn. Even in death, winter did not claim them. She had shown grace on their souls, sending them to a celestial resting place of peace and joy. What kind of goodness is this? I thought. I was moved. We all were as we bore witness to the divine holiness of goodness Firwin showed for the souls of Frost and the goblin horde. Then, green light fell from Firwin's wings, drifting sparks like seeds carried on wind. "Climb on my back," she commanded softly. We did. She lifted us above the tree line, her wings carrying us over a forest reborn beneath silver moonlight. In the distance, I saw Oakhart's lights grow brighter as we approached, bells ringing faintly through the night through the village. On Winterfest Eve, Firwin flew low over the village, and the stolen gifts magically returned, appearing quietly in every home, as if Winterfest itself had undone its theft. "The long cold nights of winter will return," she said, "but tonight, it does not rule." The gnomes gathered beneath the great fir, hands joined, laughter and song rising into the sky. Their guardian had returned. Firwin landed. Standing beside her felt like standing at heaven's door. Then she spoke to Papa Noel. "The Evergreen Forest is healed, but its joy must travel farther than these trees." A star flared overhead. "Lord Gregorus, Papa Noel, keeper of kindness, step forward." He did, small beneath her vastness. "From this night forward, Oakhart shall hold a sacred gift. Your people will have the craft, the hands, and the magic to make presents for every child who waits in winter's cold. And you, Papa Noel, bearer of warmth, shall ride upon my back each Winterfest Eve. Time shall bend, no mountain too high, no sea too wide. We will cross Faerun in a single night and bring gifts to all of the children in the Forgotten Realms." She turned then to the warriors who had stood against winter. "You have given this forest its future. From this day forward, Evergreen shall be shielded from harm with a massive dome of invisibility. Only you, fellow party companions, may pass freely. Seek the light near the spine of the world near Icewind Dale. Call my name, and I will come and carry you to Oakhart Village, always a safe haven." With that, Firwin rose once more, sword above, then dove to us and flew across the village as bursts of colours shot across the sky from her wings and tail, painting the sky in living magic before disappearing northward. After she vanished, Papa Noel approached us with his master of coin, Titus, who placed 15,000 gold pieces at our side. Payment, he said, for gathering the stolen presents and finding Firwin. He then gifted us a staff of old magic once left to him by an old wizard, the staff of the python. We all decided to let our new companion attune to it, Arcel the cleric. We stayed a week in Oakhart, resting among laughter, hearthfires and song. Farewell, Papa Noel and the people of Oakhart, till we meet again.